Good afternoon and good morning to some of you over on the West Coast. My name is Andrea Hall. I am with Saratech. I'm part of our marketing team and I will be your host today. Today we will be talking about Femap tips and tricks, and we have Daniel Rubio. He has been with Saratech for about 5 years and he is an applications engineer. So I just want to tell you a little bit about our Saratech enablement series. So the Saratech Enablement Series, if you haven't joined us already, we have a free online training the first and third Thursday of every month. So we will be here the first and third Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We usually run about 30 minutes, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. And we always lead by subject matter. We always have great experts on, sometimes guest speakers, developers, and just people that have been using it for our different products for a very long time. So if you have any suggestions for some tips and tricks series that you would like to hear about, please feel free to fill it out. We have a survey right after the webinar, and you are more than welcome to put any of your suggestions in there, and we will definitely take them into account. And we will cover things like Femap, Solid Edge, NX, Team Center, and many more things. So our goal here at Saratech is basically we just want to make sure that the software that you have or the software that you're interested in having, you're getting the most out of it and that you're really utilizing it to its full potential. Sometimes people use software only for one or two different things, and we just want to show you, just open up different doors and windows of different things that you can do with the software. And of course, we'd like to share our knowledge and find out more about how you use the software, and just to build really a community around the software, and maybe even find people in your area that use the software that you can lean on. So if you have any questions or comments during the webinar, this is an interactive training, so really feel free to put it right into the little chat box down there, and I will find a good place to ask Daniel to stop and answer your questions. So like I said, feel free to fill that out down there, and it's very interactive. So any questions that you have, just let us know. And other than that, this series is not only for customers. This is also for people who are just interested in learning more. So if you have friends or colleagues that are interested in attending, please feel free to send the links over to them. And more importantly, follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and then of course on YouTube. You can find all of our videos of online training and webcasts and things like that on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe so that you are notified every single time that we post something new on there. And with that, I will pass it over to Dan.
Thank you, Andrea, and good morning or afternoon to all of you. Thanks for joining. So we've got quite a bit to cover, so we'll go ahead and get started. Here I just wanted to show an agenda of what I'll be going through. And like Andrea said, this is interactive, so if you do have any questions while I'm talking about anything and showing everything, I'm basically going to be in Femap the entire time here. Not going to bore you guys with slides except for this one here. So what we're going to go through is three main topics. The main topic is going to be groups. A lot of people may know about groups, but don't really use them as effectively as they could. So we'll talk about using fence selections and the Femap selector to add entities to the groups. Many different methods that you can use to add different entities to groups, such as materials and properties. You can also do reference groups, which is basically a group of a group. You have different tools like automatic add and the entity editor to let you modify groups. And of course, there's different options and settings for visualizing in groups. And one main thing I want to note right now, and I'll repeat it again later, is that groups are very simple. They're basically a collection of selection lists, and it's based on Boolean rules. So basically, you're either in or you're out. And you can be in more than one at a time. So you can be in Group A, Group C, Group F. You can be in as many groups as you want, but plain and simple, you're either in a group or you're not. The next main topic we'll talk about is the new jar erase toolbar, which sort of is an extension of the Femap selector. So we'll talk a little bit about that, just see how it works, and that you can actually make groups from that jar erase toolbar. and also even view your post-process results on different groups. And the last topic is custom tools. So we'll see very quickly how you can add a new tool to your toolbars, and also some of the more popular custom tools that are already built in, and also a very simple example of how you can use a macro recorder. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in here. So here I have a model. It's a simple truss structure. We have different curves here in this model to represent the truss structure, and we already have elements as you can see. Notice we have a few different materials and properties defined in our model info tree. We also have a few groups created, some for the side truss curves, and I'll just turn on the highlight tool so we can see what I'm talking about. So here we have a group created for the side truss curves, then the side truss elements, and another group for the lateral I-beams, a fourth group for the I-beam property, a fifth group for the flat plate property, so we can see all those diagonal flat plates, and a sixth group for the longitudinal I-beams. So let's talk about a few different things here on how we can add different entities to groups. So first, I'll create a new group simply by right-clicking and pressing New. And here we can simply give it a name. I'll just call it Testing. So now you can see I have a new group created, which is number 7, called Testing. So let's say I now go to the Group drop-down, and I want to group, let's say, by element and by ID. So some shortcuts we can do is actually the fence selection. So that is one thing to keep in mind for many operations you can do in Femap. And you can either open up the Pick submenu down here in the Entity Selection window. Notice here you can choose from a box, circle, polygon, freehand, and as well as all these other more advanced selections. But for now, we'll just talk about the box and circle fence selections. By the way, if you open up the Femap Selector toolbar, you can also access those same commands right in here. Notice we have a box, circle, polygon, freehand, and so on. So I'll go back to the group element ID command, and if I hold Shift and left click and drag, notice that is a keyboard shortcut for a rectangular fence selection. So very quickly I can fence select all those elements in that area that I just surrounded, and here I'll use the highlight tool to just see what exactly I am selecting. So it is one way if you want to manually add elements using the group drop-down. So I'll just cancel that for now. Next, let's take a look at the Femap selector. This is this toolbar up here. So here we have the entities. For example, I will switch it to element. So now this is going to let me pick elements, as you can see here. There's one important note here. In the second drop-down menu, I actually would like to switch to multiple instead of a single item at a time. Now that I've changed that, I can use all these different selections that we just talked about. So again, I have box, circle, and also all those other ones. So this time, I'll actually hold Control and left-click and drag, and notice that is a shortcut for a circle fence selection. And from this point, I can do various things. Going up to my selected toolbar menu again, notice here I can create a group. So this is yet another method of adding these to your groups. Also, if I right-click, I can do different things, such as list these entities out. I can change the color layer. I can, again, create a group right from here, and so on and so forth. Copy, rotate, various other commands. So again, that is the Femap selector, yet another very nice tool for selecting and letting you modify different entities in your model. Any questions so far? I don't see any coming through the chat window, but again, please feel free to stop me if you have any questions. But there's, of course, quite a few things that I'm still going to go through. Okay, so up until now, we saw some these manual ways to add entities to your groups, but you can actually add entities a lot easier using your model info tree. In this case, I don't have any geometry in this model, but if I right-click you can actually see there is a group option right here. So if you had an assembly with 20 or so parts, you can actually create groups of each one of those individually right from here. I can do the same exact thing with my materials and properties. So notice if I right-click my materials, for example, I can create a group of each one of those. Here, Femap is telling me, do I want to make a group for all of them together or individual groups? So I will select yes to make a separate group for each material since I do have 3 different materials. Now scrolling down, notice I have 3 new groups, 8, 9, and 10 for my 3 materials I had defined. So again, that is a very nice way to start organizing your model so you can do future operations much easier down the road. So I will, my highlight tool is still on here. So let's just take a look at what we have here. My 836 steel is basically all of the I-beams, although something does look strange here, right? So my lateral I-beams on the top are included there, but not the bottom ones. And then my AISI 4340 steel is all my flat plates, all those diagonals there in the middle. And then I have a 1025 carbon steel for the lower half of the truss for the lateral I-beams. So on this note, there's one other very powerful tool we can use at this point. Notice down here in the bottom left I have my entity editor window open. If I scroll down, notice I can see I have 84 elements. This is another way that you can actually modify your groups right from here. So if I hit this little button here, I get a pop-up that basically tells me that I'm now going to be working with this group based on the IDs. So here I get my typical entity selection window. So I can highlight and see, of course, those elements that are already in that group. But at this point, I can add or remove elements from that group. So for example, I want to add now, let's say, using curves. And I can, of course, start clicking all these curves to add the upper ones. And of course, I'll just finish this off. So very quickly there you can see how easy it is to use the entity editor window and actually work with the groups right from here dynamically without having to go up to the toolbar menus again and remove entities, add entities manually. You can do them right here in the entity editor. All right, let's see what else we can show here. There is another very powerful tool called automatic add. So up until now, notice if I go to the group operations menu, there is an automatic add command. If I click that, notice I can choose if I want to automatically add entities to the group that's active, or I can also select a group that I want to automatically add entities to. Here, of course, I can see all the groups that I have created already. Let me just close this and actually show you that you can do this right from the model info tree as well. If I right-click any one of these groups, for example, my material 9 here, my group 9 for my second material, I have the automatic add option here as well. So now what you see is this little red plus icon next to that group. So that tells me no matter which group is active, notice right now group 7 called testing is the one that's active, indicated by the highlighted in yellow, blue. No matter which one is active, I'm still going to be adding to this group 9 here. So that is what that red plus icon means, that I'm automatically adding to that group. Or what I can do is go back to my automatic add command and switch that to, let's say, the active group. So now notice that red plus icon moved to the blue active group number 7. And if I double click any one of these other groups, let's say number 3 for the lateral I-beams, the red plus icon moves to that one because it is automatically moving to that active group. Okay, looks like we have a question. Andrew, if you want to go ahead and read that out, please.
Sure thing. How are you getting groups to highlight in yellow?
Okay, great question. Thank you, Andrea. So in the model info tree at the top here, and let me see, let me try to move a little slower here so you can hopefully see my cursor. But at the top of the model info tree, there's a highlight button that is called Show When Selected. So I just have that toggled on right now. So anything you click in your model info tree will basically highlight. So notice there I can highlight my property. I can highlight even loads, for example. If I expand this load, I can see that I have this end load applied to that curve. So this is basically an overall highlight tool for anything in your model info tree. Hopefully that answers your question. Let me know if you have any follow-up to that. Okay, let's go back and see one other thing here. So before we saw the manual method to add groups, to add elements to a group, for example, under group element ID. Notice on this menu I can also group by property. So this is going to do basically the exact same thing as when I showed you you can right-click right in your model info tree and in one step basically create groups of all your different properties. So this is going to do the same exact thing, but you just have to go to the menus to get there. Okay, on that note, there is actually one other way you can do that. If I went to element by ID to create to add elements to this group, notice I always have this method menu in my entity selection window. Here I can again choose from these various options. There again I see property. So this is just another way that you can very quickly create groups based on property or any of these other entity types that you see here, such as shape. Let's say if you had an I-beam C channel, you could group by any entity that has a C channel shape applied, you could group by that. So tons of different ways to add entities to your groups, as you can see. All right, let's go ahead and close out of that. Let's take a look at some view operations we can use with groups. So at this point, we're basically seeing the entire model. If I right-click in my model info tree in the group section, notice I have three options for showing here. I can show the full model. I can show the active group, in this case, only the lateral I-beams. Or if I double-click any of these other ones, say my A36 steel, I see all those, and so on. Again, double-clicking here is a shortcut for switching which group I have active. And this applies to the materials and properties and all the other sections of the tree as well. Or there's one other option, show multiple groups. So once I do that, notice all of these radio buttons become active. So I can basically start turning these different groups on one at a time to show them, or if I click again, remove them, or simply just turn off the option. So lots of different ways on how you want to show the different groups in your model. On that note of showing, there's actually yet another way that you can control a lot of these groups as well. So at the bottom right corner of the Femap window, we have the Femap tray. Notice we see properties, loads, constraints, groups, and output sets. So if I click the group menu there, notice I have a lot of those same commands. So I can change the different active groups here. I can open the Create Manage window. And then I have the three different show options. So I can show multiple, show only the single active group, or show the entire model. Notice showing the entire model basically grays out those radio buttons since I'm showing the entire thing. So hopefully all of that makes sense so far. Let me see if there's any questions in here. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, now let's take a look at post-processing. So now that we've seen how we can work with our groups in all these different ways, let's say we had some results in this model. So I'll turn on the deformed and contour view of this model. Here we can see the plot for the entire model. If I go to the post-processing toolbox here, and open up the contour section, notice there is a show on groups line right here. So if I open up the drop-down menu there, instead of showing the full model, I can show either the active group or any of the groups I have created specifically. So let's say I wanted to show only the flat plates. Notice I am now basically ignoring the results on the rest of the model except for that single flat plate group I have created. But let's say you wanted to see the those results by themselves completely. Any ideas? Well, what we could do then is simply show that active group by itself. So we'll go back to the model info tree, and instead of showing the full model, I will basically show the active group. In this case, I need to now make the active group the one I want. So double-clicking the flat plate group now shows me only the flat plate elements as well as the results only on those elements as well. So again, lots of different combinations on how you want to view your model and groups and the results on those groups in your model. All right, let me go back here and just basically show the full model again and turn off the results here. All right, let's check in. Any questions so far?
No, I don't see anything on there right now, Dan.
Okay, great. Thank you. So let's see what's next on the list here. Let's take a look at reference groups. So now I'll right-click anywhere in my group section and go to New. Here I will call this group of we'll say group of groups. Of course, you can title that whatever you want. Now at this point, if I right-click that new group, it's of course empty up until now. I can go to the reference groups command right here from this right-click menu. What reference groups is basically a group of your groups. So as you can see here, we have all these 10 groups available. So let's say I want to create a new group of my lateral I-beams, and I'll click Add, and also my flat plates. So I'll simply click OK and show the active group only. Notice we now have that combination of those two groups. So again, just another very powerful way of working with groups, creating new groups even from your existing groups. Okay, let's see one more visibility option here with groups. If we go to the group, the view toolbar menu and open up the visibility command, notice the keyboard shortcut for that is Control-Q. In here, notice there is a group tab. Here we have a lot of these same commands that we've been talking about here. So I have the show options, either the full model, the active group, a single group, or show and hide multiple groups, like we saw before. You could also create labels right from here as well. So this was basically the legacy of the older method. Now you can do a lot of these commands just by right-clicking right from here, as we saw a couple of minutes ago. But just did want to show that for completion. Okay, now let's show back the full model here, and let's talk about the Draw Erase toolbar. So that is a new capability that came out in the 11.3 version, but it is basically, you can think of it as an extension to the Femap selector, which we talked about before. So all these toolbars here. So the new Draw Erase toolbar is right next to it right here. So what I can do, for example, is select elements. And again, I can hold Shift and basically drag a fence and select all those elements in that window. And of course, from here, I can do different operations like before. So if I open up the, if I accept that, notice it basically hides those. But very quickly, I can just switch to toggle. So instead of hiding those, I can show only those elements that I fence selected. So very quickly, you can toggle back and forth there. Notice here I can also create a group right from here. So again, very similar to the Femap selector, but a little bit quicker sometimes depending on what you're trying to do. And there's even a much more powerful thing you can do here. So I'll just hit the clear button, and I'll go to File, Preferences. Now on the Graphics tab, you may have seen at some point in the past this Fast Pick Visible option. If I turn that on and hit OK, let's see what that does for us. I will go to a, let's see, a front view maybe, or bottom. Any one of these will work basically, depending on what you're trying to do here. So what I can do is go back to select elements using my draw erase mode. Here I will then select the entire model. So normally you would think the entire model would get selected, right? But now with this new option, if I hit OK, notice what happens. It only selects those elements that are basically the frontmost in the view that you're in. So it's a very nice tool to basically cut through your model only basically as far as you can see. So it's not going to pick any elements down deep through your model. All right, let's check in on any questions on the entire draw erase capability. That's the majority on how it works. Let me just open up this tool again. Notice we have the same pen select options. You could erase things. You can select elements, properties, or materials, create groups like I showed before, and of course very quickly toggle back and forth between hiding and showing your different entities. All right, let's talk about our last section here, custom tools now. Here I will switch to another model I have open, basically two plates that have already been meshed. We have some holes basically on the ends of this that are lining up. So we want to create some bolted connections, if you will. Manually, you could create some spider nodes and then a beam element connecting those spider nodes, for example. But let's talk about custom tools real quick. So if I open up my Femap installation directory, notice there is a PDF section. Here, if you have never seen this, I definitely recommend you check it out. There's a ton of PDFs in here, such as the API. API is Application Programming Interface, which Femap has a very powerful programming capability inside of it. It uses Visual Basic, and this is, just a nice short 2,200 pages for you for your nightly reading. But in all seriousness, it is very powerful. It has all the information you could ever need here in this document to help you programming. And you can, again, do some very powerful things. You have many other PDFs in here to help you out. And if I go back one level, notice there's also a, sorry about that, looks like my Windows Explorer has crashed. So let's go back in there. Notice there is a Nastran help folder. In here, again, we have PDF, and here we have a lot more PDFs specific to Nastran, so different theoretical information and things like that. All right, let's go back a couple levels here. And notice at the top level, there is an API folder. If I open that, notice we have different folders, which basically mimic the toolbar menu we have in Femap. So if I create a new folder in here, for example, say testing, and let me go in and create a copy basically. I'll go and copy this one here and paste it into this new testing folder I created. Now, back in Femap, if I open up the custom tools drop-down menu, notice that immediately shows up. That's how simple all of this is. So I already see that testing menu with that switch back on for printing, which is one of the very nice and powerful APIs that are already built in for you. Notice in 1 second I can very quickly change my background to white if I wanted to take some screenshots and print those out, show my boss those pretty pictures and so on. So very nice tool there, for example. Let's see one other quick tool here under meshing. we have a hole-to-hole fastener. This is another commonly used tool. So notice I get a pop-up that asks me for the bottom curves for my fastener. So I'll simply select the 4 curves on the bottom of my hole, and then the 4 holes on the top of my hole. And notice in about 3 seconds, I very quickly created this representation of a bolt. So notice it created 2 spider nodes and a beam element. Let me switch that background again for you so we can see a little better here. So again, notice it created 2 spider nodes and then a beam element connecting those. All right, just a couple more things to mention here. There is a new user tools capability that you have in Femap. So in case you had a collection of custom tools at your company, you could specify that additional directory for your own custom user tools. And then one last tool I wanted to mention is the macro recorder. So this is the program file window that you see here. So what you can do is basically record any command. So if I hit the record button, I can do any operations such as, change my views, change any options, create a material, anything you want. And once you, go ahead and save that, I'll just cancel for now. You can go to your file preferences and notice there is a library startup tab. In here, you can actually run a program and turn on the option to run for every new model. So this is a very, very nice tool that you can use to automatically run, some sequence of steps for every new model you create. So a very, very huge time saver here. All right, let me double check I didn't miss anything that I wanted to cover here. Yeah, I think we're good. So let's see if there's any questions, and then we can go ahead and wrap up.
Looks like we might have, let's see. Nope, no more questions at this time, Daniel. Thank you so much. That was a really great, informative presentation. And so again, a little survey will pop up at the very end. If you will just kind of fill it out and give us some feedback, we would really appreciate it. It just helps us make these training sessions better, and we just want to keep improving them. So make sure that you join us Thursday, February 16th, same time, same place. You'll have to register through our website. We will have Solid Edge tips and tricks, and Daniel, if I'm not mistaken, you will be presenting again. Is that correct?
Yes, I should be on there, and we'll also have Jason West, another great application engineer with us, and we'll be talking about Solid Edge, a good amount on Team Center and how Solid Edge has some very powerful built-in functionalities with Team Center for managing all of your data.
Okay, awesome. And then we have some webcasts coming up as well. February 15th, we're going to have a solutions webinar about solving thermal issues and electronics design with CDF and NX. So if you're interested in just learning a little bit more about that, please make sure that you register for that, and we'll make sure that you get all the updates and your personalized links and things like that. And then also, people sometimes are not aware that we also do public training classes. So we do have one coming up on February 27th, and that is a dynamics class. And then we also have Intro to Femap. So if you'd like to just start back at the basics with the Intro to Femap, or if you have any new employees, that would be a really great public class for them to take. So you can find out all that information on our website, or you can always email us at support@saratechinc.com, or you can reach me at marketing@saratechinc.com. And then, of course, like I said, always follow us on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe so that you know when all of our webcasts and our free online trainings are posted, and you can share those with your colleagues and your friends. We would really appreciate it. So again, thank you, Dan. Great job today. We look forward to the next one coming up on Solid Edge and Team Center. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.